Ariel Helwani. You don't have to spend long online looking at MMA content until you start seeing Ariel being called names. Weasel, snake, shit stirrer, liar, rat. But is it all true? Amongst his foes are the likes of Dana, Jamahal Hill, Paddy Pimblett, John Jones, Dricus du Plessis. The list goes on. There's a saying that if you run into an arsehole in the morning, you ran into an arsehole. If you run into arseholes all day, you're the arsehole. Feels like it might be relevant here. But let's give this guy a chance and take an unbiased look at the details. If you look at his work on YouTube, it's hard to deny that his content is amongst the best MMA content online. Tons of high-profile guests, in-depth interviews and exclusives. It's hard to see where anyone would have a problem. I mean, listen to Dana.
He's one of the slimiest, scummiest motherfuckers that you will ever come across.
Bit strong, innit? And then you learn that in 2016, Ariel was fired from Fox Sports due to his conduct in interviews with fighters. At one point, Dana literally had security remove Ariel from the building. Around the same time, his relationship with Dana went sour after Ariel constantly brought up fighter pay and fighters leaving the UFC when talking to them, putting the fighters themselves in a sticky situation. Stickier than Tom Aspinall's fingers.
Have you ever been fingered by an MMA fighter before?
In fairness, I can see both sides of this. Ariel is allowed to ask these questions, and the UFC shouldn't be allowed to dictate what journalists ask. But Ariel was very persistent with these lines of questioning, bringing the same loaded topics up often with various fighters. He was even later banned from attending UFC press events. It starts to become clear after watching a few interviews that Ariel intentionally creates and stirs up shit between the fighters, and between the fighters and the UFC, getting fighters to say things that could hurt their careers, blatantly sacrificing their potential future livelihood to further a vendetta that is becoming more and more obvious. And this has been referenced by many fighters.
Ariel's dirty, sneaky tactics that he likes to use to get over on fighters. And he does this all the while being completely, man, just a punk about it and doesn't own up to any of it. Keep throwing shade at me. You have an agenda, have a problem with me for whatever reason. Maybe it's due to the fact of last time when I came on your show, after my championship fight, you tried your tactics on me and they didn't work. You thought that I was just another dumb fighter, somebody that you could just run circles on verbally, and it didn't work out for you. And people saw you for what you really were. And in that, you're now upset, and every chance you get, you're just taking shots at me.
Granted, Jamahal is generally saltier than a mouthful of population juice, but he's far from the only one. He's just the most recent. It goes back a long way. Even in the early days, Dana was aware of his tactics.
But just wanted to get the reason why.
You want to antagonize him. You want to aggravate him and get him pissed off.
That absolutely not.
It's totally the truth. That's
Asking
why
a
I
question.
knew what your question was right when I called it, right when you picked up the microphone. You never even ask questions first. You usually hang back and wait. Ooh, you had to get that first question. You knew what you wanted to
God
ask him.
forbid.
You want to piss him off and aggravate him. Would you have any questions about the fight?
Not right now.
Okay.
Even Rogan commented on it.
Joe says, well, Ariel Helwani likes to get people to say things. What the is that all about?
Once you see it, it becomes almost funny. Watch here when Volk is doing a cooking segment on Ariel's show, and Ariel is desperate to shoehorn in the subject of fighter pay.
By the way, how many?
What am I going to taste it with?
Oh wait, I have another one.
Good man, I'll do the. I got.
How many fights left on the old UFC deal? Let's get down to brass tacks here.
Eva, Ash, what do you reckon?
Oh no, I don't have.
He loves it, doesn't he?
I used it.
He's like, well, while Alex is paying attention to the food, I'll get everything out of him.
I feel like we need to have a conversation about that.
No, we won't talk.
No, we're mates.
We won't.
Why don't you like to talk about that?
We're good mates.
Yeah.
That's why we're eating and cooking together.
Why don't you like to talk about that? Some guys like to. Izzy just got a big deal.
You. Well, as soon as the cameras are
you
on.
like to keep the business personal.
No, yeah, it's not up to me.
You're not a ruffle of the feathers type. Okay. Are we getting to the end?
We'll leave it at that.
Okay. It's funny because some guys like to talk about it.
Hey?
Some guys like to talk about this.
Yeah?
We know, how many left, all that
Yeah?
stuff.
Oh, really, yeah?
Yeah, you're not that type.
All right, here we go.
But you have the argument that Ariel hides behind, which is that it's his job to stir drama, and that he creates interest in the fighters and the sport. Whilst you can technically argue this, it's not like the sport wants or needs him to do this. And even if that was how it was, it still makes him someone that the fighters shouldn't trust, and someone that it makes sense that the UFC would ban. And when you think about it, someone that the fighters can't trust and the organisation shouldn't have around, objectively, doesn't sound like a good person, does it? He recently tried to race bait and demonise Drickus in the Izzy situation, and wildly manipulated facts to try and vilify Drickus and create more racial tension. It's a shame because his audacity can lead to some funny moments.
How old were you?
When I what?
When you
went
were
to
in jail?
Disney World the first time, or?
No, the other Disney, the complete opposite.
And those are rumors that I went to jail.
Oh, okay.
That might not even be true, man.
You don't want to talk about it?
Skip.
Okay. Can I ask about your father?
Yeah.
He has been to jail as well.
And a lot of the time, he asks good questions and makes good points, but it's undermined by the fact that he's clearly always pushing a narrative in his interviews. A narrative that seems to be him lashing out and trying to damage the careers of anyone that he feels has wronged him. The geezer needs to sit down and have a glass of water. He's not a fucking supervillain. What makes this all worse is that every time Ariel gets the better of someone in a public spat, his ego visibly grows. And he has a tendency to hold on to grudges and then tries to use anything and everything he can against those people at any chance he gets, which is becoming more and more obvious as he seems to be getting lost up his own arsehole. If all this behaviour wasn't bad enough, it's all made a lot more toxic by his defence mechanism. The minute anyone has a problem with him that he can't talk his way out of, he declares it anti-Semitism. There is definitely a pattern where if Ariel is winning or is in the right, he takes it all personally and enthusiastically celebrates himself. But if Ariel loses or is in the wrong, then everyone's racist and it's all because of his ethnicity. One example of Ariel becoming consumed by his ego came when he had his longtime friend chael sonnen on the show to gloat about the Francis Fury fight, whilst everyone in general online was right to see the event objectively as lopsided in the lead up, and it was blatant that Ariel was only in such support of Francis and the event because it was in direct opposition of his biggest enemy, Dana and the UFC. It didn't stop Ariel shoving it down chael's throat like D on Connor's yacht.
Come on, chael. We shocked the world.
Well,
please apologize.
Ariel.
Apologize.
Also, who the fuck is we? It was Francis, wasn't it?
Great job, and so did Fury, and we should have made it about competition instead of you trying to damage the bigger guys that you think somewhere around the way wronged you.
It was in such bad taste that it drove chael to completely lose his mind.
What you're trying to say is that I have a grudge against the UFC and Dana White, and that's why I'm trying to spin this into a narrative that Francis won. You danced around it. You almost tried to say
you
it.
think I didn't make that clear?
Oh no, you didn't say it. You didn't say that. You didn't say that. You didn't
when
quite
I said
say
you
it.
think I danced around it.
Oh, you danced around it.
I called you flat the F out on it. What do you mean I danced around?
You didn't have the guts.
I hit you in the face with
you didn't
like
have the guts to say it, so I'll say it for you.
I don't have the guts
you didn't have the guts to say it. Rewind this video.
And inevitably, in the immediate aftermath, Ariel accused chael of racism. Chael had made the mistake of letting Ariel get close. Years earlier, you may remember Khabib confronted Ariel about his lack of loyalty.
You're not loyal, that's why I block you.
And when faced directly with the criticism, you'll never guess what he brought up.
This is showing the world that Jews and Muslims can come together as friends, right?
Even Bilal remembered the decision Muhammad had a problem with Ariel. And despite Bilal being a thoroughly nice guy, of course Ariel publicly, on his show, jumps to the conclusion that it must be because of his race. Look, I think it was bad enough in the beginning when Ariel was just a shit-stirring journalist. But when he was extradited from the UFC and all their events, it broke him. He snapped. He's now becoming consumed with spite, and it definitely appears to be ramping up. Because he thinks he's smarter than the fighters, he plays them all to fit whatever current agenda of vengeance he has. He does seem to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, I really did try and look at this topic from a completely neutral position. But if you run into an arsehole in the morning, you run into an arsehole. If you run into arseholes all day, you might be Ariel Helwani. Ariel has the ethnicity that he has. And from everything I've seen, it has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. He's just a narcissist. And as he collects more enemies, his behaviour is only going to get worse. Luckily, we all get to watch it unfold. Anyway, if you like this video, give us a sub, check out this playlist of recent bangers, and I'll see you next time.